Next, we're going to move on. We're going to have item 2, Avenida Encinas Coastal Rail Trail. And from what I'm hearing, we have some public comments. So we're going to have Nathan present, and then we're going to go to public comments, and then we're going to go to commissioner comments.
Thank you, Chair Gokin and members of the commission. I'm Nathan Schmidt, Transportation Planning and Mobility Manager. And this item is the Avenida Encinas Coastal Rail Trail. So the recommended action for this item today is to receive the presentation, receive public comments, and then for the commission to provide input on the proposed project. So taking a step back, big picture look at the Coastal Rail Trail project, it's a county-wide regional bike route. It would extend from the city of San Diego at the Santa Fe Depot in downtown San Diego, along the coast, going through North County, all the way to Oceanside. The entire distance is approximately 44 miles, and it would travel through multiple jurisdictions, multiple cities, including San Diego, Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas, Oceanside, and of course, Carlsbad. The segment that we will be looking at today is the Avenida Encinas segment, and this would be from Carlsbad Boulevard to Cannon Road in the north. This is one segment that travels through the city, essentially due to the large size of the project area. The entire Coastal Rail Trail is being built out in these incremental segments, and will eventually be built out into that 44-mile condition. The project that we are reviewing today, this segment was funded through a Caltrans Active Transportation Program, or ATP grant. It was partially funded by that ATP. The remainder of the project will be funded by a CIP project that the city has already funded through our CIP program. So in regards to the Avenida Encinas segment, it runs from, like I said, Cannon Road to Carlsbad Boulevard. The portion to the north, so from Palomar Airport Road to Cannon Road, that has already been constructed. The city built a road diet there, so taking Avenida Encinas down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and we added in buffered bike lanes, improved some of the sidewalks. So that portion of the project area has been constructed. So for today, we are focusing on the remaining segment, which is the southern part from Palomar Airport Road in the north to Carlsbad Boulevard in the south. A few key connections I just want to point out, how it connects to the greater Coastal Rail Trail network. So from the south, the Coastal Rail Trail would be coming from the city of Encinitas along Carlsbad Boulevard, and then connect to Avenida Encinas and go to the north. And then at the north side on Cannon Road, the future alignment would most likely cross Cannon Road and then continue along the existing railroad right-of-way alignment going to the north. Also at that northern point, it would also connect to the future Terramar Streetscape project on Cannon Road, and that would run between Paseo del Norte in the east and Carlsbad Boulevard in the west. So this plan here, this shows the, this is a schematic map that shows the general project area. I'll kind of run you through here some of the features before I get into more details later. So again, this portion here between along Avenida Encinas between Cannon Road and Palomar Airport Road was constructed. The remaining portion, again, just runs along Avenida Encinas through Poinsettia Lane, and then to the south at Carlsbad Boulevard. A few key features, looking at this project and, how it kind of fits in the big picture of the city's active transportation network. This corridor, it's a transit-focused corridor, meaning that it connects to one of our major transit centers at the Poinsettia station. So, with transit typically induces other active transportation modes. So you think of that first mile, last mile solution to get to the Poinsettia station. We are looking to improve, especially bike and ped access to the site. Also, in addition, there are approximately 5 other bus stops along this corridor that would be benefit from the improved bike and ped access along the corridor. In terms of land uses, there's a variety of land uses. So on the north side, it's more industrial use. There's several recreational complexes here on the north side, just south of Palomar Airport Road. There's the Encinas Wastewater Authority. And then as you go to the south, it transitions into more of a residential area. As you go south of the station, there are the car dealerships, of course, there along the curve. There's the hotel cluster. And then within this area, it becomes more residential. It does provide a connection to the Poinsettia Village shopping center. And then to the south, it of course connects to Carlsbad Boulevard and all the coastal amenities there. So a timeline for the project. So right now we are going through the planning and public outreach phase. That's anticipated to occur through April through January of 2022. So this is the first chance that the Traffic and Mobility Commission has to provide feedback on the project. We will be bringing this project back to the commission once we do have the detailed engineering designs ready for you to review. At this point, it's just very conceptual and schematic. We are just really trying to get your first initial thoughts on the project, so then we can continue to push the project through the design phase. So the design phase, the timeline is expedited due to the grant requirements. So we anticipate the timing for engineering to start in June, and that would last about a year through July of 2022, with construction starting in September of 2022 as required by the grant. That is the deadline for allocation of construction funds. So we do need to meet that deadline in order to maintain the ATP grant funds. So just taking a look at some of the proposed design features of the project, which we will mention later, just want to give you just an overview of what these are. So first are enhanced intersections. So these would be intersection improvements that have been identified at a few key select locations throughout the project corridor. These would feature things such as high visibility crosswalks, also curb extensions, which are narrowing down the travel lanes as you get to an intersection. It also brings pedestrians out into the intersection to make them more visible to cars and bikes that are within the roadway. It could also incorporate some of the conflict zone treatments for cyclists, which we've reviewed on other projects as well, such as the dashed or the green striping through the intersection. Again, we'll work out the finer details of these elements through the design process, but this will just give you an idea of what we're talking about when we say enhanced intersections on the later project maps. So just a few of the benefits that these features create are, of course, it reduces crossing distances for pedestrians because of that curb extension feature at each of the corners. It also adds greater visibility for pedestrians and potentially cyclists at the intersection. And that it also provides a traffic calming effect to slow vehicle speeds because it's reducing down the travel lane distance as you come to the intersection. So that visual appearance of a reduced travel lane does indeed create a traffic calming effect. Another feature that is highlighted in the plan are pedestrian hybrid beacons, also known as hawk crossings. Pedestrian hybrid beacons are features that are used at uncontrolled but marked crosswalk locations. These are essentially, as you can see here, this is an example from the city of San Diego. This is on Torrey Pines Road. These are activated crossings, that will have a indication with a yellow flashing and a red to stop traffic when pedestrians are present. And again, they're only active when activated by pedestrians. And then for bike features, we are proposing Class 2 buffered bike lanes throughout. These are a few examples of buffered bike lanes in the city of Carlsbad. Typically, we like to go with about a 3-foot buffer, and then the bike lane varies from about 5, kind of our minimum, to 7 or 8 feet maximum. The buffered bike lane here on the right side, this is an example of when we have parking. So this buffer here, instead of against the travel lane, it's against the parking lane to provide what we call a door zone clearance. So clearance from vehicles who are opening their car doors, just to give bicyclists a little more room and push them away from the cars. So the buffers can go on each side or both, actually, which you'll see in some of these later plans. So those are the design features. Now I will run you through the proposed project improvements. So again, the portion north of Palomar Airport Road has been removed because that has already been constructed. Moving to the south, so at Palomar Airport Road and Avenida Encinas, we would be, sorry, it's kind of cut off the map here, but we would be proposing some type of enhanced intersection treatment. Again, here, potentially some curb extensions at the corners, some traffic calming and ways to reduce the crossing distance for pedestrians at that location. Moving further down, as you'll see the dark blue line here, this indicates that we would be providing those enhanced class 2 buffered bike lanes. Where you do see the black lines, those are locations where we would be filling in existing gaps in the sidewalk. So we would be constructing a new sidewalk throughout. So once the project is constructed, we would have seamless connections of sidewalks on both sides of the street throughout the corridor. Right now, there are some gaps, some pretty extensive gaps in the sidewalk network here, and we would be addressing all of those with this project. One other key feature, which I mentioned earlier, was potentially doing a pedestrian hybrid beacon, and we would be looking to do that at the driveway to the Poinsettia Coaster Station. So here's we've got a series of cross sections that we can take you through to help explain the general idea of the project. The top is, of course, the existing condition. The bottom is what we would be proposed to implement with the project. So first, this is the portion just kind of directly south of Palomar Airport Road. Existing condition, we do have some bike lanes here with the center turn lane and then 11-foot travel lanes in each direction. The proposed project would be narrowing down those travel lanes from 11 feet to 10 feet, also narrowing down the center turn lane to 10 feet, and then providing buffers on each side, 2-foot buffers here as we've shown, and then wider 7-foot bike lanes on each side. Also on the west side, we would be adding a sidewalk on some of these locations here, which would require us to widen the roadway by approximately 9 feet throughout this location. Next cross section here. So this is the location just north of the Poinsettia Station driveway. So this is where it narrows down to 2 lanes. Right now, the existing condition is 12.5-foot lanes each direction. We would be widening out Avenida Encinas by approximately 30 feet. So with that, we would go with 11.5-foot travel lanes, a 3-foot buffer, and then 7-foot bike lane each direction with 6-foot sidewalks on both sides. So moving to the south of Poinsettia Station to Poinsettia Lane, we would be proposing to restripe, and this would all be done with restriping this entire stretch of an Avenida Encinas with buffered bike lanes. So right now, the existing cross section, we do have 8-foot bike lanes here with the 8-foot parking lane on each side, 11-foot drive lanes, and a 10-foot center turn lane. We would be slightly narrowing down the travel lanes from 11 to 10 feet in each direction. And then we would also be adding buffers to the bike lanes here. And because we do have parking on both sides of the street, we would be adding the buffers both to the parking side to allow clearance for that door zone, and then also to the vehicle travel lane side. So 2-foot buffers and then a 6-foot bike lane. And again, this would all be done with restriping the existing roadway all the way to Poinsettia Lane, and no roadway widening would be required here. So the southern portion, so looking at the portion from Poinsettia Lane to Carlsbad Boulevard, we would be constructing a road diet from the portion approximately Poinsettia Lane to, I believe this is Winrose Court. So just past just once you get to the next housing development here, we would be looking to remove a travel lane in each direction, and staff will be evaluating this further, taking a closer look at the traffic counts to make sure that that is feasible with current traffic operations. One other feature to point out is, as part of the North County Corridor, the Caltrans project to widen I-5, there is a proposed connection to the Bataquitos Lagoon Trail. So that connection would occur approximately here, and then it would extend, the trail would extend all the way to the lagoon just to the south, to the south here. A few other, looking at doing some traffic calming improvements at some of these intersections in the residential neighborhoods, Dory Lane, Winrose Court, and then also doing an enhanced intersection at Carlsbad Boulevard and Avenida Encinas, where it connects to, where it would then connect down to Encinitas on Carlsbad Boulevard. One other feature is, and also looking to do potentially some type of mid-block crossing here from the community across from Poinsettia Village. We've heard some residents here concerned about having better access to the shopping center across the street. So this would be a way to provide better pedestrian access for them. In this slide here, this just shows the proposed Barquillos Lagoon Trail alignment. So this is how it would potentially connect to the lagoon. So if you look to your map, the right side of the page would actually be to the north, so it's kind of flipped. This yellow line here is the coastal rail trail segment, and this shows how that trail would potentially connect with the lagoon trail and then extend underneath I-5 to the existing trailhead here. So looking at some potential cross sections, so this first section here is D. This is just north of Winrose Circle. So the existing section, it's 4 lanes, 2 lane each direction. We've got a 12-foot drive lane, wide outside travel lane at 14 feet. And then we've got some 5-foot, which are typically, that's kind of narrow for a bike lane. So the proposed improvement would provide a road diet here. So we would remove 1 travel lane in each direction, narrow down the drive lanes to about 11 feet, provide this wide buffer, 12 feet, and then 8-foot bike lanes in each direction. And then the last cross section here, so this is just south of Winrose Circle, and this would then continue all the way to Carlsbad Boulevard. So right now we've got a 3-lane configuration. So 14-foot center turn lane, 12-foot drive lane, and then quite narrow 4-foot bike lanes. So the proposed project would then essentially take out that center turn lane and then provide 11-foot drive lanes in each direction, provide a 4-foot buffer and 8-foot bike lanes. And again, this would be done, both of these segments would be done with just restriping improvements only. No roadway widening would be required. So that's an overview of the project. Again, we have very conceptual plans at this moment. We will develop these as we go through the engineering phase. The next steps for the project are to continue our public outreach efforts. The first of that is the Traffic and Mobility Commission today. We did provide a mailer to the residents in the neighborhood. We mailed out approximately 2,700 mailers just to notify the residents along the corridor. So that would be the entire area, all the way from Cannon down to Carlsbad Boulevard, informing them of the project and their ability to participate. We will be developing a project website on the city website for a portal for residents to provide feedback. We will be coordinating with local residents. We do have connections with the local HOAs and communities in the area. We will be doing some direct outreach with them. And then we also, of course, we plan to return back to the Traffic and Mobility Commission with our engineering designs sometime in the winter of 2021. If needed, we would need to submit a scope of work change with Caltrans. The plans you see before you today, those were accepted by Caltrans. If we do make changes, we would just need to inform Caltrans of those changes if needed. Then beyond that, after public outreach has been concluded, engineering design would continue. We'll start that in June of 2021, and that would then continue for a year and conclude in July of 2022 with construction in September of 2022. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to end this.
First, if you can read the public comment.
Oh, yes. Pull those up here. All right, so first public comment is from Judy Frankel from Bike Walk Carlsbad. And her comment says, while the widening of Avenida Encinas is needed to accommodate all users, ATP grant money should be used to actually create the rail trail on the roadway right-of-way. Although Avenida Encinas was originally delegated as the rail trail, it is not on the rail trail right-of-way. Any riders using the rail trail continuing from north to south will continue to use the Coast Highway and Carlsbad Boulevard, rather than going out of their way on a section that is less desirable in form and function. Avenida Encinas will also be used to get to and from the Poinsettia train station by commuters, but continuing the rail trail on the railroad right-of-way definitely was considered in the past by Brian Jones when he was here. Why was it not part of the original plan as is done in Oceanside? Things have changed dramatically at the power plant since the original plan was created. A pedestrian bike bridge over the lagoon has already been installed to carry a pipe across, and the rail trail could easily be extended from Tamarack to Cannon and there on the railroad right-of-way to the train station and beyond to Ponto. Pedestrians and cyclists on gravel bikes are already using the trails in these locations, and this is a huge wasted opportunity. With regards to the design plan of Avenida Encinas, please be aware that there are existing commuters that ride to the train station. They are educated riders who don't need to be harassed by motorists thinking they should be using green painted bike turn crossing when they are making legal left turns as legitimate road users from the left lane. Those riders should be accommodated as well by adding left turn pockets with sharrows or bike lanes centered in the roadway to the right of left turn pockets. Thank you, Judy Frankel. And I have one more. This was submitted by Lance Schulte. Following are my comments, which I think are fairly consistent with the community concerns about vehicle speeding and running stop signs. Danger is pedestrian crossing and narrow bike lanes and sidewalks for a major pathway to the beach. First, the Caltrans I-5 bike pedestrian trail should be included in the plan. This is a longer term plan, not likely to be built until after 2035 when the remaining components of the NCC Build I-5 project is completed. Second, it appears that the location of the intersection redesigns are not fully accurately marked. Avenida Encinas Dory Lane is further west near the rail corridor. Also, Avenida Encinas Windrose Circle should be identified as a redesign. Third, conceptual intersection designs should be provided for all proposed intersection redesigns. Fourth, a specific intersection redesign should be provided for Avenida Encinas Windrose Circle. This is a significant intersection needing redesign. And fifth, the area south of Poinsettia Lane is in Local Facilities Management Plan Zone 9. There is a current lawsuit against the city regarding LFMP 9 missing 30 acres of unconstrained growth management standard open space that LFMP 9 developer were inaccurately and possibly inappropriately exempting from providing. Landscaping the 12-foot buffers as shown in cross-section DD could be used by the city to help address the missing 30 acres of unconstrained open space in LRMP 9. I would highly encourage the city to explore landscaping these 12-foot buffer areas as it would address missing open space and other issues in a positive way. Attached is a plan loss of open space file that summarized the city data on multiple open space shortfalls. Thank you again. I think you're hitting a lot of these issues very well with the above suggestions would make for a suitably complete and livable street. Lance Schulte.
Okay, so before we go to commissioner comments, does staff want to address any of the public comments? I am curious to know why we're not using the same plan by the rail as it was, and we're moving on.
Yeah, I think this plan started back, before 2017, but I think it was just because of the corridors, how it provides these key connections to these key destinations in the city, such as Poinsettia Station, such as the residential. It's really because of Avenida Encinas and those key destinations that it connects. If we do, once the trail does continue to the north, that would be in line with what the resident was stating. So it would continue once it gets past north of Cannon, it would continue along the railroad corridor in that location and really through the northern portion of the city. But this portion does deviate from that railroad alignment.
Okay, and any other comments you would like to address from the public?
Let's see. So yeah, I think just looking at Mr. Schulte's comments, again, because it's a very conceptual plan, once we do have these engineering designs available, we will be sharing those for feedback. We just don't have them at this point. But I think he does make very good comments, and we would, potentially consider looking at some of his suggestions for the landscaping buffer areas, which we can sort out through the engineering process.
Okay. Commissioner comments, questions? I see one, two. Okay, we're gonna start with Commissioner Hunter.
Good job again, guys. Like most of the changes you're making, down around Poinsettia Village, I think it was just south of there. You're going from 2 lanes down to 1 lane, but leaving 20 feet of, bike path and bike buffer. It's a pretty crowded area, and we're still a car-driven type of thing. And I think the drive lane was still 12 feet. I don't know why you couldn't easily put 2 10-footers in there and still have almost 15 feet of lane for bike and buffer. So I wasn't sure why we had to have an 8-foot bike lane and a 12-foot buffer in a relatively crowded area.
Yeah, that's a good question. We could potentially do that. I think as staff, we were just, we looked at the traffic volumes, and really, I think they were less than, they were around 16,000 in that area, and that would be, essentially 2 lanes would be enough to serve that level. But there is, because of those wide buffers, we could potentially reduce it down to 10. So that's something we'll look at when we engineer this out.
And again, it's a change. You're going from 2 to 1.
Yeah.
You're taking away traffic lanes, which I always have an issue with.
Sure.
Because we're not getting any less crowded.
Yep.
That was it. Other than that, looks nice. Good job.
Okay, Commissioner Linke.
First, I wanted to ask is it possible for us to get the public comments in writing before, because it's hard for me these are actually very informed comments, and it's hard for me to follow the details of it just being read and then trying to process it at the meeting. Is it so for City Council and Planning Commission meetings, comments are made available prior to the meeting? Is that something we could do?
Yes, we can definitely do that. Some of these comments we did just receive today, but we can do that in the future.
Okay. So the first commenter made comment about using Carlsbad Boulevard. So I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the history of this whole rail trail thing, but if bicyclists are going up Carlsbad Boulevard, are they really going to divert off to Avenida and Encinas and go inland? Or what's the thought on, we're doing a lot of improvements, which I think we should do, but what, do you understand the question?
Yeah, I do. I mean, purely from a recreational perspective, they're going to stay on Carlsbad Boulevard, just because it's such a nice place, to bike, the views and everything that go along with that. There's no denying that. A lot of people will stay there. Again, I think our connection, our goal was really to provide better access through this community on Avenida and Encinas, that area to the south. They've really expressed need and a desire for some more substantial traffic calming. They've got some major issues with speeding and safety that they've been expressing throughout the years. To the north, just better connections to the transit station and the adjoining land uses. So again, that's really the main intention of this.
Okay. And I'm going to have a similar comment, I think, to Commissioner Hunter, but it's also going to be inconsistent with what he just asked in some respects. I live off La Costa Avenue, and we not too long ago did a road diet, and the travel lanes were reduced to 11 feet. And I think initially I was opposed to it, but sort of came around realizing that the traffic projections that had been done were never realized. And so our traffic there is not as heavy as it was thought it was going to be. It's probably closer to 14,000 than the 20,000 they originally thought would be there. But one issue is in reducing the travel lanes, that it is kind of disconcerting going into the left turn lane with oncoming traffic coming at you at 40 miles an hour. And those are with 11-foot lanes. So I think I probably support the road diet here because the traffic probably is low enough that it can be handled by those lanes. So my difference from Commissioner Hunter is that I support the road diet, but I'm a little concerned about reducing these lanes to 10 feet. Because you're gonna have 10-foot wide lanes straddling only a 10-foot wide center turn lane. And like I said, when those 3 lanes are 11 feet, it's kind of concerning. So do we have evidence that 10 feet with this type of typology and the volumes of traffic that are being carried is a good idea? I just think that, go ahead.
Yeah, let me modify my comment. They're at 12 feet now in that description. You can go to 11. I mean, 10 wasn't anything particular I was looking at.
Right.
It was just eliminating the 2 lanes for 20 feet for bike lane and buffer.
Right, understood. And I would just add that 11 feet, I think, is a good number. I get concerned though when we're talking about, this is like a former portion of our more arterial network, and these aren't neighborhood streets. They do go through neighborhoods though, and I am concerned about that. But I think the road diet and other measures probably will achieve traffic calming. I'm just concerned that going back and forth between 11 and 10 feet and 11 and a half feet, my preference would be that we just keep them all 11 feet for the vehicle lanes for safety and comfort. I mean, I'm a big proponent of bicycle projects, and I think we should do this. And if you need to widen the street more in the areas where you're proposing a 10-foot vehicle lane to make the bicyclists more comfortable, I would think that would be a good idea. So I don't know if there's any response to the 10-foot versus 11-foot vehicle lanes.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are good comments, Commissioner Linke. You know, I think as a rule, we were, where we can, we would keep it at 11, but there are portions that, in order to fit within, to fit a, adequately sized bike facility, we would need to reduce it down to 10 in a few locations. So that was our approach. Keep it at 11 where we can, but in those constrained locations, maybe go down to 10.
Okay. And then the final comment was I had submitted some slides. I don't know if we can show those. I can. It's several slides, but it's not a long thing. It's more to emphasize, also including transit. I don't know if we can put the slides up.
Yep, I'll pull them up here.
So the first slide is the staff's project map, basically, and I circled. And go to the second slide. So this is the project map. I circled 3 bus stops: Carlsbad, Pacific Center on the left, Encinas wastewater after that. Then there's the Poinsettia Coaster Station, and on the far right, if it's not blocked by people's view of our rest of our commission, on the Carlsbad Boulevard intersection is the third one. Next slide, please. So this shows the southbound bus stop at that northernmost location near Palomar Airport Road. And it's just a sign in the ground with no amenities. Clearly not a very inviting bus stop. Next slide. And this is the northbound one across the street from that. At least this one has a bench by it, but that's the only amenity on all these bus stops is the bench at this one right here in the next slide. The next 2 are at the Encinas wastewater. This is southbound. You can see the sign there in the ground. Next slide. And that's the northbound, so just a sign in the ground. Okay, on the next slide. This is at Carlsbad Boulevard. You can see the sign off to the right there, sticking out of the dirt. Very uninviting bus stop. And then the last picture is on the next slide. This is in the other direction, northbound at Carlsbad Boulevard. Sort of an awkwardly placed sign in the dirt there with a guardrail. So I think we can see that all of these bus stops are pretty terrible. And I guess the question is this something that should meet our minimum standard in Carlsbad? And then also make the point that this is, as Ben pointed out, this is a transit corridor. The middle bus stop is near Poinsettia Station. It's prioritized for transit. So I'm wondering so question 1 is, should these bus stops meet our minimum standard in Carlsbad for a transit corridor? They have 1 or 0 average boardings per day currently. buses only run a couple times a day. And then the second question is, are there going to be any improvements to these stops as part of this project, as part of this capital improvement project? So you can turn my slides off now, but I just wanted to point out, as I always do, the dismal state and ask the question about, are we going to making any improvements?
Yeah, and to respond to your question, yes, we will be looking at improving those stations. They're not in very good condition now, as you've clearly highlighted. So we will be improving access to those, but also as we engineer the plans, we will be looking at providing more amenities. We'll work with NCTD on those.
Okay, my last comment would be that any road diet requires city council approval. So hopefully, maybe when this is presented to us next, there could be some traffic count data, so we know just what kind of impact it's going to have, and you know what that decision making.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Pensier.
Since I only heard part of that, I assume you can't hear me either. Is that true or not?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I made a number of comments that I actually sent in by email last Friday. And so one of the comments I'd like to make is that I received this on Thursday morning, and then went out and wrote it on Thursday afternoon, and then developed my comments and sent them in by Friday night so that they could be, people could take a look at them over the weekend. And because of the fact that it was, you know, 4:45 on Friday, they didn't get sent out until this morning. So so one of my comments is, I wonder if we could get these items earlier in the week so that we can thoroughly proceed to make our comments and get them back to the staff, so that when we have questions, they can be answered before the meeting. Is that something that we could work on?
Yes, yeah, we can work on doing that.
Okay.
I can see Commissioner Linky's smiling face, because he's been requesting this for a while too.
Okay. Well, my other questions are on, I should have provided pictures too. Steve, great job with the photos on the bus stops and so on. And when I made my comments, I made them on each one of the sections and so forth, and I intended to show some, should have shown some photos on the sections that would be worth 1,000 words. But primarily this section is likely not to be used as a coastal rail trail. It really isn't the coastal rail trail if it's that far from the tracks. And I have ridden parts of the dirt roads that go from the train station and head down towards Poinsettia. It's not part of the Carlsbad Trail system, but I'm wondering if that was ever a consideration for the coastal rail trail, since that would seem to be a superior Class 1 trail to using the existing roadway, which has lots of constraints.
Yeah, that's a good question, Commissioner.
Did that question go through?
Yeah, I think I got it. Essentially, you're asking why, similar to the residents' comment, why we aren't using the railroad corridor versus Avenida and Encinas. And yeah, and the answer is,
it just seems. I mean, it is really important for people to be able to, if commuters are ever going to use via Encinas, they're going to be using it to get from the train station probably to Palomar Airport Road, where most of the jobs are. And you've got this constraint where there are no bike lanes just after you get back onto via Encinas. And so part of my question is, since this isn't going to take place for over 2 years, can we do something in the meantime to at least provide some sharrows on that section of road? That narrow section, and then should we really consider in the long term improvements to either a trail along the North County Transit District tracks, similar to what we've done between Oak Street and Tamarack, and hopefully still planning to do between Tamarack and Cannon, and just to be consistent through the corridor. Is that something that is going to be precluded by the improvements that are made on via Encinas?
You're referring to what? If we could construct the
well, if we make all these
along
changes to via Encinas, and we're going to call this the coastal rail, the coastal rail trail, then are we going to be precluded from a superior route along the NCTD right of way?
Oh, well, of course, we would be using funding, our own funding, to build it along Avenida Encinas. And you know, there may be some history that I'm just not aware of why we didn't do that. You know, I think as staff, I'd be happy to research that. You know, I may need to do some coordination with Sandag to find out why this, you know, beyond the land use connections, why, you know, there may be some other right-of-way issues with that corridor. But I can, you know, we can definitely coordinate with Sandag and find that out and get back to the commission on that.
Okay. I know Encinitas has changed that over 20-year-old plan and created some additional class 1. They created an additional class 1 pathway between let's see, Swami's and down to Chesterfield, and they continue to use Coast Highway. Most cyclists do, but they've created a completely off-road trail adjacent to the tracks. And I mean, if we use via Encinas, it's just not going to look good compared to what is being done by cities to the north and south of us. I know that Oceanside's plan is to stick to the tracks all the way through, and I think that Encinitas is as well. So this is going to look pretty strange if Carlsbad uses via Encinas, which doesn't go anywhere near the tracks, and it's on a roadway which is not going to be of a type that is going to attract the same kind of riders that a true class 1 trail would. So I guess what I'm asking is, can we review this? I mean, it's a 20-year-old plan, and it seems like we're heading in the wrong direction with respect to the coastal rail trail.
Yeah, and Commissioner Pensiers, we could review it. You know, I don't think we would be able to use our grant funding, our ATP grant funding for that project. But it's, you know, definitely something that we could review. Again, it's in the planning stages only at this point. So if we would want to do that, you know, we likely wouldn't be able to maintain the grant funding because it's such a deviation from the original project.
So can you make me understand this grant is not special just for the coastal rail trail, or?
The grant is for the project that we described today. So it's along Avenida Encinas from Cannon Road all the way to Carlsbad Boulevard.
Okay, and who pays for the coastal rail trail or inland rail trail? Is that Sandag or is that each city?
The city would be paying for it. So the project is funded by a combination of the ATP funds from Caltrans and the city's CIP funds.
Okay, so in the future, I think what I get from the public comments and from the commissioners is that we really like the road diets and the proposed plans. We just don't feel comfortable calling it the rail trail because, especially like Commissioner Pensier is saying, Oceanside has it by the NCTD and Encinitas. So if we're just diverted through the city just because it benefits, which it does, the other neighborhoods and residents and us overall, it seems like the concern is, are we able to eventually continue the coastal rail as it's supposed to be by the NCTD since the city pays for it and still do this project?
Right. But none of, those other projects are not currently funded by the city CIP project. So we don't have any funding yet, but it's something we could always explore in the future.
Okay, but it doesn't stop us. If we do this project right now with this grant, it doesn't stop us in the future to continue the coastal rail by the NCTD and the NCTD right away.
No, this would not prohibit that.
Okay. Commissioner Pensier, it's still, unfortunately, you're still coming in and out, so it's kind of hard to, we did get all your comments, but just so you know, you're just breaking a little bit. With that, do I have any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Fowler?
So that's actually a pretty important point, and you can say naturally, and that's something I would say, is that, well, we have a project and it's been partly paid for by grants and so forth, and it gets built. I think it would be impossible to say, oh, okay, well, so now let's embark on another project that essentially would do the same thing. And, you know, in essence, the idea that you could kind of say, okay, well, we've done this, now we turn our attention to the real thing we want to do, which is to make the coastal trail consistent all the way up the coast. So I'm wondering if there is a reason that's more compelling than a grant, and that's pretty compelling, by the way. I don't dismiss that. But there may be other issues of right-of-way that we don't have and some complexity there. Something that could be answered in a month, and maybe it's a reasonable, you know, I think this is such a great point that, you know, the coastal rail trail should, you know, reasonably be consistent. And I think that's the vision, I would think. So would it be reasonable? And you can say no. I mean, can you find out about any other compelling reasons and report back before we approve this, or something along that line? Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, Commissioner Fowler, I think you make some great points, and you know, staff would be happy to investigate, you know, kind of the reasoning why, you know, this specific corridor was selected and it's not along the railroad corridor. We can coordinate with Sandag and some of the regional bike planning representatives to get some better information.
Yeah, and I think there could be some very compelling reasons that this is the route. So I don't have any concept otherwise, but I think Commissioner Encinas has made a very strong case there. So thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Perez.
Yeah, just two questions. First one is on that point B, where the I don't know, Nathan, if you need to put up the screen or not, but it's right where the coaster station is, the Poinsettia location.
Yeah.
So just from my understanding, that part where B is, or if you can explain it, where that turn is, I think it's where that auto dealership is, and then it goes north. Will that have, is it proposed to have sidewalks on there? Because I think currently right now there is no sidewalks on both sides, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's no sidewalks now. Again, yeah, these black lines show where those gaps are around the station area, and we would be filling both of those areas in.
Okay, I think that's a great thing, just because as a person that rides that area when I can't go up those hills on the on Carlsbad Boulevard, I use that as a easy way out. But yeah, that's a very interesting turn. So it'd just be really nice to have that pedestrian or that sidewalk. That's great. And then the other question that I have is on EE. I think it's great. Thanks. For that section in the I think it's blue and purple or aubergine. I remember from a previous commission meetings that there was some with the community about speeding. I think there's a four-way stop sign there. Would this be a consideration for or an ideal location for like a roundabout to come through there, especially if it helps with the cycling lanes and to help with reducing speed? It's just something from the past. So I was just
that's a great suggestion. It's something we can evaluate here. If we can fit it, we'll see if we can fit it, and then also if we can, if our budget allows for it. We've kind of got those two things going against us, but we can definitely take a look at that.
Okay. And then the last thing that I have is in regards to the trail, and actually all of the proposed renovations that we're going to have, is if we were to do that trail that goes under, I'm sorry, and I'm talking to the Bataquitas Lagoon Trail.
Yeah.
If we do go with that, where the trail connection is, do we have to work with the California Coastal Commission on any of this for approval?
For this trail? Yeah, I don't know about that, Commissioner
Okay.
Perez. This is a Caltrans project, so I'm not sure if they would need Coastal Commission approval here or not.
Okay, it would be interesting just to hear just to make sure we have all of our ducats covered, that body doesn't have to, or they have to make a decision. So okay, thank you.
Okay. Do I have any other commissioner comments? Okay. So Commissioner Linke.
Sorry, I don't know if I could ask the question, what is the funding? So there's an ATP grant, which congratulations on getting that. That's excellent. Can you tell us how much that is and what the city's contribution is?
Yeah, I can tell you. Want to give me one moment just so I don't misstate. All right, so the total grant funding for the ATP is 1.7 million. And then, so that would be then the approximate, so the total project is approximately 9 million. So the ATP is 1.7. And then the CIP would be the remaining portion of that.
And can I ask what portion of the, so we have to, the city is actually paying what, over 7 million. And is there a certain budget category that comes from, or is this exceeding the Proposition H $1 million limit where we need to have a citywide vote?
Yeah, I don't think it would require the vote. It's it's funding that has already been identified in the city's CIP program.
Okay. And then if we want to build something along the track right away in the future, that would be entirely city funding. Sandag doesn't fund anything.
No, we could apply for a new ATP grant for that project as well. I mean, it is definitely an active transportation project, so we could potentially pursue grant funding for that too.
But there's no like coastal rail trail project funding from Sandag that is already earmarked for this sort of project.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. Again, that's something I think when we can get back to you on from our coordination with Sandag about that alignment question.
I've just become kind of confused now because it seems that recreationally bicyclists are going to stay on Carlsbad Boulevard. And then we have this Avenida and Encinas option, but then there's also the track right away. So there's like 3 routes through here, and my head is starting to spin on what the best approach is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all serve different needs and groups, right? Even regardless of what this project is called, you know, the Coastal Rail Trail, and I can't really answer to the fact or the why that it deviates from the rail footprint, but I'm just looking at the corridor, the uses upon it, including the transit station and that Ralph shopping center. Seems like this is a good project, and so I don't think we necessarily need to think of this project as better or worse than, you know, the coastal route, which people obviously are going to be attracted to. But I do think this particular route for bicyclists will offer a measure of attraction in terms of access to retail, to restaurants, to eating places, as well as the transit station.
Okay. So this was something that you guys applied in 2017 because we actually, Commissioner Linky and I were in a meeting with Assembly member for District 76, and she actually brought up the fact that City of Carlsbad is not on the ATP list for 2021. And I'm assuming it's either there was no project or you didn't qualify because it seems you need 60 points or for minimum. That seems like an option for the future, that even though we're using this fund for this year for this project, which is great. Again, it doesn't have to be the coastal rail. We can still do that in the future. Who chose the alignment for? Was this the city chose the alignment to the, or?
Yeah, Chair Gokin, it was developed by the city. We would have to again look. This goes beyond my history here, back in 2017. So. We'll research that.
I mean, either or is overall it's an improvement for our community and our city. So either or, I personally approve that. I do have concerns, the same concerns as Commissioner Hunter has. That 12-foot buffer, it's a concern to me, and the concern is that if we do go that way, are we diverting some traffic? Is the traffic that usually they would go drive on there, and then if they don't feel comfortable because they either have 10 lanes or just 1 lane, they take it from route and then congesting other roads that are adjacent. So I do trust that that staff does all the diligence looking at traffic counts and the best option. So I do know that, but that's one of concern about the road diet. If we constrain it too much and then leave a 12-foot buffer, what would that mean to the traffic? And then I also totally agree with Commissioner Linky. Those bus stops are just sad. For Carlsbad, I know we don't have ridership, but at least to make.
I think Chair Gokin.
We lost the chair there.
Yeah.
I guess you didn't like her comments, Elaine, huh? So.
Who did that?
All right.
I just
Chair Gokin's back.
I know. I was going to say that we have a lot of tourists in our city, and we have a beautiful city, and we should have more than just a pole with a bus stop, very awkwardly positioned from some of them. And I think that those are all the comments that I have. I do like the project, and I'm sure we will continue with the coastal rail and get more funds. So with that, do we have any other commissioner comments? Vice Chair Perez, would you like to make a motion? Are we just to receive the presentation? I guess we're not
Yes.
voting, right?
Yeah, just receiving presentation and receiving your feedback. So thank you for all of the comments. And yeah, I will plan to return to the commission next month with an update on what we find out regarding the alignment along the railroad corridor.
Yes, and I think that was the concern, is if we call this coastal rail trail, are we going to still be able to actually have the one continuous, which that would be ideal, and have this project. So I think the more the better for us